Those in favor? All four in favor, unanimous, carried. Good luck. Please invite the planning coordinator to introduce the application and staff recommendation, please.
Yes, thank you, Chair. This is a minor variance application for 250 Mill Street. The intent of the application is to add a towing compound as a permitted use in the high-rise growth zone, or SGA zones, in our major transit station areas. The applicant's requesting to add the towing compound use to the property, which already contains a multiple number of uses. The front contains a single detached dwelling, while the rear of the property contains sale and parts of motor vehicles and service and repair of motor vehicles. These uses were legally established under the previous zoning bylaw 85-1. So previously the property was zoned general industrial, which did permit these types of uses. With the recent changes and amendments to implement new land use and zoning in our major transit station areas, these types of uses are no longer permitted. So staff have reviewed the variance to add a towing compound in light of the four tests of the Planning Act, and unfortunately we find that they do not meet all four and is recommending refusal.
Thank you for that. If I can ask the agent applicant to introduce yourself, please, if you've read the staff report and if you are in favor of it. Thank you.
Basically, I'm the agent for the landowner. I'm an engineer with MTS. I've reviewed the staff report and I disagree with the staff report, and I've prepared to argue some of the points that are in the report.
Thank you for that. First up, I'll ask if there's anyone in opposition to this application. Seeing none, so I'll allow you this opportunity to make those comments, please. Thank you.
So our first concern here is that city staff has acknowledged that there was no previous use as a towing compound, and that is not the case. Abstract towing has been running from that compound for the last, I believe, 10 or 15 years. The current designation or the legal status of that property might not have been there, but that is the correct, the use that was before. And previously was used as a transportation and service-oriented hub, trucking yard, parts, service, storage of vehicles. So historically, it has been that use. There isn't really moving from that use. It's the continuous of that use. So we're not really introducing something new to the area. I understand staff would like to call it as a major change or a variance, but it really isn't. We're continuing what's already there. We're not adding to what wasn't already there. The other issue here is the SGA 3 zoning. So we acknowledge that zoning. We understand it's the city's vision. We're not here to be in contrast with that zoning. We're here to say this is the future. We're okay with it. We're going to continue to operate what's already there as being as a productive property, rather than the property sit vacant because we're not able to continue to use it until that future use of high-rise growth areas achieved. And the reason is the adjacent properties are all currently the same use. There's to the left of the property a towing company, to the right of the property is a towing company. The property that shares the driveway is owned by the same owner of 250 Mill Street. So to support the city's goal of redeveloping this area, the owner of the property that shares the driveway would have to change his mind and close up his shop, which that will only happen if he decides to do so, because he owns both properties. So the continued use of what's existing there isn't going to change until that plan is reached, where the owner of both properties decides, this is what we're going to do. I'm now going to redevelop this, or I'm going to sell, whatever the case might be. But the current use is going to continue regardless of what the outcome here is, because it is already on the next two sides already being used. So whether you can park a car or call it a towing compound, it's not changed to what was already there. The second issue I would like to address the 4 points of the Planning Act, the 4 tests that staff has put through this application. So general intent of the official plan. So You're right. A towing compound doesn't support the intensification and transit goals, but that may be true for the future. But today, the corridor is a service-based corridor. Continuing this use is practical interim measure until redevelopment occurs. And this is clearly evident due to the fact that the owner of the property owns both properties, which they're not going to close their business and say, hey, I'm going to close it, sell this part, but keep this part as a towing compound. They're going to sell it both as one lot and redevelop it according to what the city has in plan for the future for that property. So the intended use currently will only change when the current owner decides it's time for him to move on, sell the business that's currently there, because that entire street is industrial, as you guys know. It's very clear from the pictures. It's not affecting what's currently there. The way staff has presented this as this is something, you're in a park and you've introduced a towing compound there. No, you're in an industrial area, a heavily used industrial area. There's towing yards, there's car sales, auto body. It's a continuous use. It's a very minor variance by the definition of a minor variance, because we're just looking to say, hey, we're going to continue the use that's there. And in support of what city wants to do is future development, we're willing to accept a condition on a time limit for this variance, where I think is reasonable to be a productive use of that land in the meantime until future development happens or is allowed. So an example, a good use of that land would be a restriction of 5 or 10 years where this use will have to stop eventually. And I believe that aligns with what the current owner of both properties plans to do in the next 5 to 10 years, is to eventually sell and retire. And I think setting a goal like that, where we have this condition, properly aligns with what the city wants to do. We keep lands that is used for the same use that is previously. We're providing employment in the area. We're supporting strategic growth of the area, because people live in the area need jobs. You don't want a towing compound to end up at the end of the city, because you're going to pay for mileage, right? So the idea is to keep it central for the time being. I think supports that goal. The intent of SGA 3 is the future density. The variance doesn't overturn that. We're just maintaining what's already there, and we're okay with a time limit, no problem. If the committee believes in the next 10 years, that will all turn into this high-rise buildings, we're all for it. Put a time limit on it, and I think that's going to probably make more sense than just saying, hey, no, this can't be used for towing, but you can park 100 vehicles for it as long as you don't call it a towing compound. I don't think that makes sense. I think it's existing use, and it's semantics, I believe, with the bylaw itself saying, you can park vehicles there, but you can't call it a towing compound. And we're okay with any conditions that staff or committee would like to propose as far as visual barriers, restricting the time that you can be accessed, traffic, but I think those are already in existence because the adjacent properties are already towing compounds. So once again, we're not reinventing the wheel here. It's already existing. We're just saying we want to continue to do that until the city or property owner says, you know what, let's get these buildings put in. And at that point, he's the landlord of both properties, and he can just do that. And his vision aligns with what we're saying. He doesn't plan to sell them separately. Both properties should probably be sold at the same time to the same buyer. Now, the fourth point that staff was arguing is not desirable, which is the appropriate development of the land. I guess staff is arguing towing is not desirable, but in today's context, it's both appropriate and necessary. And I think that it's because it matches the neighborhood currently. Like I said, I'm not putting this in downtown Kitchener right at front of City Hall, where Williams is. I'm not putting a towing compound there. We're putting something that already exists in that area, continuing to what it was before. It provides essential municipal and police towing service. It is the compound would be used by the Ontario Provincial Police as on the rotation list. So it is providing an essential service It is not something that's not needed. It is needed. It supports the community. And honestly, the last one would be it keeps the land productive, right? Having a land that's just closed and saying we can't use it is counterproductive. It's going to be productive. People are going to earn wages through that business being there, and whenever we could set a time, like I said, whenever that occurs, then that business can move elsewhere. So that is the gist of the 4 points of the Planning Act, the questions that staff has raised and refused. To sum up what we're trying to say here is that the request is small, modest. It's a continuation of what's already existing. We're okay with transition. It doesn't block future development. And the plan is not to block future development. The plan is to align with those developments, which makes sense financially for the landowner. It's compatible. The whole street currently is a towing and service-based street, and it's reversible. So the fence is that's there can be removed overnight. It is not a permanent structure that is going to have an issue. It's a very easy reversal. So I think it aligns with being able to redevelop this in the future if the landowner decides to do so. And we want to say that the agent and the landowner are committed to mitigation, so time restrictions, so a limited approval of some sort. I see here that the engineering staff talked about a pollution prevention plan. We're okay with writing up whatever staff requires. I think it's already established that entire street already has that use, so it shouldn't be hard to come up with a pollution prevention plan. Like I said, the OPEC fencing, we're okay with having maybe to cover it if it pleases staff, and maybe restricting hours of operation, but that's not the case for our neighbors. I'd say that would be going above and beyond there. And thank you for your time.
Thank you. Questions for the agent that's here? We got questions for staff? Go ahead.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chair. Just to clarify a couple of things, this was permitted under bylaw 85-1, but isn't under the new bylaw?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay, next question, which was actually brought up by the applicant. Can we do a time-limited variance? Like, can we say, okay, we're going to let this towing compound exist for 5 years?
No, we cannot. That would be a temporary use bylaw that we could implement. That's not a minor variance. Further to your first question, in terms of a permitted use under the previous zoning bylaw, yes, it was a permitted use. It would also be a legal use of the property if the applicant had obtained a zoning occupancy certificate. And that's the problem and the issue. That use wasn't legally established with the zoning occupancy certificate under 85-1. I think the committee can recall a similar application a few months ago with the badminton club. They were in a similar situation where the use was permitted under 85-1, however, they didn't get that zoning occupancy certificate. So unfortunately, it's not a legal use, a legal non-conforming use. Staff, in terms of the recommendation, opinion is tied. In terms of a professional planning recommendation, new land use and zoning, it's very challenging for staff to provide a positive recommendation for you this morning. So that you have what you have before you in terms of a staff analysis of the variance, but in terms of the background, yes, the use was permitted. It would have been legal if a zoning occupancy certificate had been applied for.
Just a quick follow-up. So if I understand this correctly, all they needed was a occupancy permit.
For it to be a legal non-conforming use or a legal use in the new bylaw, yes.
Yeah, so this business has been there quite some time. I've driven by it on a number of occasions over the last, I don't know, 20 years. It's similar to the businesses around, and it's all just because they didn't file some paperwork. So I think the committee will obviously, or will deduce that I am not in support of the staff report. I think that this should be approved as opposed to refused. So that's my position.
I hear you, Member McCall, and if the committee is leaning towards a different recommendation, I have 3 conditions that I believe need to be added to the recommendation. The applicant's going to need to submit a site plan application to ensure that the site can function accordingly. As mentioned, engineering staff have required the pollution prevention plan, so that would need to be submitted and approved to the Director of Engineering. And thirdly, third condition would be that the zoning occupancy certificate be applied for under the current zoning bylaw.
Okay, thank you very much. That clarifies a couple of things. A question for the applicant, these 3 extra conditions, how was that with regards to your position?
Can you use the microphone? Thank you.
Sorry. I think staff is reasonable to be asking of some kind of conditions. I think the pollution plan probably is an overkill in this case. It's because it's already existing. You would have to, the entire street would need a pollution prevention plan. I think it's more or less not changing what's already there. We're okay to do it. I just think it's an extra expense that the landowner would have to carry for no reason, because take the name that it's a towing compound and he wouldn't have to do anything, right? Does having a sign there saying it's a towing compound change how pollution is handled in that property? I don't think so. Same case with the site plan. I mean, it's a site plan isn't, we're not changing anything. It's what's already there. Do I need a site plan? No problem. We can do the site plan, but I think it's just extra costs and extra conditions that staff is putting maybe to kind of convey their general idea that they don't really want a towing compound there. Contrary to what staff believe, it is an existing use, and like a member said, had somebody in the last 5 years or in the last 10 years, 15 years, applied for an occupancy certificate, which would have been a very minimal cost, we wouldn't be having this debate here. So we're okay with conditions that staff would propose. I just think the pollution plan's probably overkill for that property. But we're okay with what's to please city staff within reasonable measures, right?
I have some questions for the agent. The owner of the property, he leases this out to a tenant that runs his business then?
Yes.
And is this why it came to the committee? Is this a new tenant moving in or taking, because did we lose continuous use of this? Why are we here right now?
No, so the previous tenant never applied for the legal status to be a compound. It was always a compound. The previous, I guess, tenant never applied legally, and when the landlord found out, just that relationship ended.
So right now the property is not being used as a towing compound, it's just in limbo?
It's simply not used because, you want to make sure you're complying with all, city bylaws and zoning, which is a waste of land, right? It currently sits empty.
And if I can just continue then, does the adjacent property have that permitted use then as a towing compound,
Yes.
correct?
Yes, they both do.
Because they have that certificate?
Yes, both sides they do. And staff is aware of this, which is surprising. At first, when we had discussions with city staff, they were in support of this. And for some reason, this was changed last minute when we had some meetings with city staff. So, I don't see this as big of an issue as it should be, right?
And just to go further then too, they're separate businesses on the adjacent properties? Separate
Yes.
towing businesses?
Yes, they are, yeah. So there's a body shop to the left, which also has a storage certificate, and they do store vehicles. To the right, there's a body shop. There's also a towing compound in the back. And 2 doors down, there's also a towing compound. And I think the member is familiar with Member Bob is familiar with that street. It is very obvious from when you drive or walk or bike down Mill Street, you'll notice it is a towing compound. It's a business-oriented area, specifically those 3 addresses there.
Thank you. Any more questions? Member Bob?
Do we have a motion on the floor?
No, it was just questions.
Okay, well, I'm going to bring forward a motion that this application be approved with the 3 additional conditions that have been suggested by staff. I understand the applicant's concern, or they've been in business doing this for a while, a long time. And I think it should be recognized that it's an existing business, or 3 of them, all doing essentially the same thing. And I think a slip up in paperwork, or somebody wasn't paying attention to a memo that came out, I don't know, a couple of years ago maybe. So there's my motion that this be approved. Not the application, not the staff report, that the application be approved with the 3 extra conditions that have been mentioned by city staff. That's my motion.
Thank you. So Member Bob made a motion to approve this variance with the 3 conditions set forth by city staff. Is there a seconder to that?
So we can get into discussion. I will second that.
Okay, so we have a seconder. The floor's open to debate. I will ask a question first as far as the city staff. If this is approved, does this just become legal non-conforming for this property, this use?
No, if you approve it, it is a legal use. It's not legal non-conforming. So you're approving a variance for a new use to the property, so it would be a legal use to the property. I just want to clarify a point made by the applicant. At no point in time did staff support the application. When applications come in, we have initial conversations, and I worked with the planner on the file when the application first came in, and that was what was conveyed to the applicant, non-support.
Maria.
I have a question for staff regarding the legal use of the property if we do approve per member Bob. There are 3 conditions that you will be including. Don't those conditions have to be satisfied before that actually becomes a legal use of the property?
That is correct. So the 3 conditions that staff is suggesting would need to be fulfilled for the legal use to be, of the property to be a towing compound. So the application would be worried that an application for site plan be made, not approval, because we need the application made. Once the application is made, the variance would come into effect, similar to the pollution prevention plan. And the 3rd condition is that the zoning occupancy be applied for rather than approved, because we want those applications in. We can approve the variance, and then we can approve the applications. I also want to clarify the site plan application requirement. It would have been required under 85.1. So we don't have a site plan for a towing compound. So if they had come in under 85.1 and wanted a towing compound, we would have required the site plan application.
Thank you for clarifying. So if they do apply for those 3 things and they are non-compliant, then the applicant is technically back to square one, and it will be refused if they're not in compliance with the site plan application as well as the pollution report.
Yeah, so they should be able to submit those and have the variance come into effect. It won't change. They just need to make the application for the site plan and zone occupancy, but the pollution prevention plan, that's a mouthful, would need to be approved by our Director of Engineering.
I have a follow-up, just if I may, before Member Bob sort of jumped the gun. Like, I'm aware of the site plan and zoning occupancy certificate, pardon me, but I'm not really familiar with a pollution preservation plan. What's that entail, just for my understanding, what that looks like?
I myself am not entirely familiar with the pollution prevention plan. That is a requirement of our engineering division, but they are requiring that as it's a high-risk site activity on site. So if even under 85-1 in the site plan application, that would have been a requirement as part of the site plan application.
Sorry, Member Bob, I cut you off before, but I was just keen on that pollution plan.
I think we were walking down the same avenue on this. I don't see a problem with site plan. I'm surprised there isn't one. The pollution, well, you know, I mean, it is a towing company and they'll be dealing with fuel and batteries and all that kind of stuff. So there has to be a plan on how to deal with that. So I'm still going to move ahead that this be, well, I'm a little addition. I don't think any of the 3 additional conditions that have been suggested by staff are in any way onerous. I think this will add value to the property if and when it comes time for redevelopment or resale. So I'm going to say I'm in support of my motion that this be approved with the 3 conditions.
Mayor Marco?
Yeah, just a couple of things. I think my ideal outcome is having some way where we could put properties such as this, where the zoning has changed, and the city wants to provide more land for development, and because it's high-rise development, you could easily put over 100 units, which is a lot. And I just, since the applicant seems to be, you know, open to like timelines and having notice, I wish there was a way to just do that. As it, yeah.
Sure.
So let me assure you, because of the ownership of that property, the two, they share the same driver, the same property. It will be when the owner of that property decides to retire, which is probably in this soon 10 years. And I think your time limit will automatically be built in because they would want to sell both at the same time. So it aligns with what you're hoping for, I believe.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, it just, I have sympathy for the applicant and businesses that are, you know, they might not always be paying very close attention to changes in zoning, and then all of a sudden they might not be compliant. When I initially read it, it was, I was thinking about the desirable use of the land and hundreds of, or potentially over 100 residential units. But I think my position has changed a little bit. Yeah, I think I might be in support of the motion.
Yeah, thank you, Mayor Marco. I'm in support of the motion. I understand this is not in line with the new zoning bylaw and the vision that staff has for this land in the future. But the way it stands right now, this is in line with everything around there. It's a service-based corridor. Other properties are very similar in doing the same thing. It would seem terribly unfair for this tenant and owner not to be allowed to continue to do this. So if they're able to meet these conditions, and it seems straightforward to do so, I have no issue with this. I'm willing to support this motion and vote in favor of it. Mayor Bob?
Can I just make a slight aside comment? The owner now knows that the clock is ticking. And now this is not an official comment from this committee. You may have missed it on the first time around when the bylaw changed, but now there's no excuse. So at some point, the market forces will dictate that the building at 250 Mill Street is going to be changed. So that's just my comment, and I'll leave it at that.
If there are no further comments, I will call for the vote, which was to approve this variance. So all those in favor? 1, 2, 3, 4. So 4 are in favor. So it is approved. Thank you. Pardon me, with those 3 conditions. My apologies. So approved with those 3 conditions. Thank you. A 2025-